Page 6.6 of Sandeep Garg. Now we're going to understand what is a central bank and what are the different functions performed by a central bank. This is very important. It's a board 4 marks question. This year also we had a question from this particular portion in the boards. Now the first function of central bank is currency authority. Means it's a mint house, which means it is the only authority which has the right to print notes according to the government, and this right has been given by the Ministry of Finance. Remember one thing, RBI has a has its monetary liability to issue notes, which means it can only issue notes or print notes to the equivalent of the assets in the form of the gold or any sort of securities that it holds. It's very important that RBI has the authority, because the purpose of giving RBI only the authority to print notes is, one, it maintains uniformity. बिल्कुल एक जैसे कोई duplicate notes नहीं होते. The central government can influence its power. मतलब we want to increase the money supply or decrease the money supply, the government can do it only through the RBI. Again, it's very easy to supervise only one particular organization. So government के लिए बड़ा आसान है कि सिर्फ RBI को supervise करना in terms of note printing. And the people have immense faith in this particular printing of notes, and पता होता है कि ये original आ रहे हैं. Last, it helps to stabilization of the economy. Coming to the second function, it is the banker to the government. I told you on the very first day when I explained that talking about the next function, banker to the government, as I've told you earlier also, that RBI is like a mother bank to all the commercial banks. The commercial banks in turn lend or borrow or lend or advance loans or get the deposits from the general public. So we are going to look at two important functions, banker to the government and banker to the banks. In banker to the government, the RBI has three important roles to play. One, it is the banker to the government. Second, it acts as an agent, and it acts as a financial advisor to the government. When it is a banker to the government, what does the RBI do? See, the government borrows money either from the public or either from foreign banks, anyway like that. So the government's current account is held with the RBI, and it is maintained by the RBI. Second, it accepts all receipts and payments. It accepts all receipts and makes all payments on behalf of the government, right, to the entire banking system. It also gives loans and advances to the banks either for a temporary basis or for a long term. But then the government also borrows money from the RBI by selling its treasury bills. When it is an agent, the central bank has all the responsibility of managing the public debt. सरकार ने कहाँ से लोन लिया, कितना लोन लिया, कब लिया, उसके ऊपर कितना इंटरेस्ट है, सरकार ने लोन दिया, वो सारा रिकॉर्ड RBI मेंटेन करता है. It is a financial advisor on all financial issues from time to time, monetary, financial, all aspects is taken care. Like we have the coronavirus going on now, on and off on the television, you find the governor of RBI, making statements like the repo rate has fallen down, it is always advised to go in for digital cash. जो भी कुछ वो बोल रहा है, it is doing it on behalf of it is doing it for the government. So RBI is the banker, agent and financial advisor to the government. Bankers to bank and supervisor. As I told you, RBI is the mother bank for all commercial banks. So RBI becomes a banker to all banks. Like the banks are, all commercial banks are our banks. So RBI is the banker to all commercial banks. In order to be a banker and a supervisor, it conducts three important functions. As a banker, the very first function is it's a custodian of cash reserve. Custodian matlab dekh rekh, sara paisa. Yeah, it is the responsibility of the RBI to take care of the deposits which the commercial banks have made with the RBI in the form of cash reserve ratio. So सारी cash reserve ratio जो commercial banks ने RBI में रखा हुआ है, उसकी custody RBI के पास है. Second, it is a lender of last resort. मतलब अगर किसी भी commercial bank को किसी भी reason से पैसा चाहिए और उसे पैसा कहीं से भी नहीं मिल रहा, मे बी बाकी कमर्शियल बैंक से नहीं मिल रहा या मार्केट से नहीं मिल रहा, तो वो हमेशा आरबीआई से बोरो कर सकता है. क्लियरिंग हाउस मतलब since every commercial bank holds cash reserves with RBI, and there are many transactions which have to be done between the banks, so it becomes very convenient and easy for any bank to ask RBI to clear their funds on their behalf to another bank, or it can always get the money from another bank through the RBI, right? So मतलब उन्हें आपस में करने की लोड नहीं, through the cash reserves the money can be transferred from one bank to another bank through the RBI. So it's a clearing house. So the three important functions under Bankers Bank: one, it is a custodian of cash reserve; second, it is a lender of last resort; third, it is a clearing house. It acts as a supervisor. मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया था, it's a mother bank. When I say mother bank, then it is a supervisor. It regulates, guides, controls, facilitates all the commercial banks. जितने भी commercial banks के license issue होने हैं, branch एक्सपैंड होना है, या कोई बैंक दो बैंक्स को मर्जर करना है. अगर रिसेंटली आपने सुना होगा न्यूज़ में, April 1st there are many banks which have merged together. For example, the Canara Bank has merged with the Syndicate Bank, the Oriental Bank of Commerce, the Union Bank has merged with the, Punjab National Bank. All these decisions have to be taken over by the RBI. RBI takes it on behalf of the commercial banks. Okay, children, today we are going to be understanding the role of RBI as a controller of money supply and credit. As I've already told you many a times that RBI has the sole monopoly in issuing notes. It has the authority to control credit and take care of the money supply, and this it does through its monetary policy. For the monetary policy to be successful, there are some instruments that we are going to understand. By changing these instruments, we will be able to understand whether the money supply can be increased or decreased. Remember, each instrument is for 4 marks basically, and then most important is the same topic is there in another unit wherein you need to understand here very clearly. The first one is repo rate, or we call it the repurchase rate. Repo rate is basically the rate at which RBI, that is the central bank, lends to the commercial banks for meeting their short-term needs. I repeat, for meeting their short-term needs. But obviously, the RBI will not give them money just like that. It is going to give them against the approved securities or any sort of bills of exchange. It's very important that the repo rate, it's very important to understand how the repo rate influences the money supply. Now, whenever the repo rate increases, which means RBI has increased the lending rate to the commercial banks for short term. Whenever RBI charges them a repo rate, उसी हिसाब से कमर्शियल बैंक भी अपना लेंडिंग रेट लोकल पब्लिक से चार्ज करेगा. ठीक है. सो अगर मान लो कि आरबीआई ने रेपो रेट बढ़ा दिया, तो कमर्शियल बैंक्स बट ऑब्वियसली क्या करेंगे, दे विल आल्सो हैव टू इंक्रीज देयर लेंडिंग रेट. जब शॉर्ट टर्म लेंडिंग रेट्स इंक्रीज हो जाएंगे, दे विल बी डिस्करेजिंग द बोरोवर्स टू टेक लोन्स. When they discourage the borrowers to take loans, the availability of credit with the commercial banks will decrease. When the availability of credit will decrease, it means money supply in the economy will decrease. But suppose RBI increases the repo rate. RBI repo rate बढ़ा देता है. जैसे ही RBI, when the RBI decreases the repo rate, इसका उल्टा इफेक्ट होगा. That is, as soon as it decreases the repo rate, the commercial banks will decrease the lending rate. जैसे commercial banks decrease the lending rate, they will encourage the borrowers to take more loans. As soon as the borrowers start borrowing more, the availability of credit in the economy will increase. Hence, the money supply also will increase. Let's look at the second means of controlling, bank rate. Now, the difference between bank rate and repo rate is, bank rate is the rate at which RBI lends to commercial bank to meet their long-term needs. So, repo rate is for short-term, bank rate is for long-term. Now, the same goes if RBI wants to if RBI increases the bank rate, what will the commercial banks do? They will also increase the lending rate. जैसे ही lending rate बढ़ जाएगा, the borrowers will be discouraged to take loans. When the borrowers are discouraged to take loans, it will reduce the ability of the commercial banks to create credit. money supply in the economy also will decrease. जैसे आजकल कोरोना वायरस चल रहा है, इतने सारे क्राइसिस हैं, there's so much of problem, we are all in the lockdown, there is no money supply in the economy, it has rather reduced. So if you would have heard the news very carefully, the RBI governor had recommended that after discussing with the government, that the repo rate has decreased, the bank rate has decreased. They have asked the banks to defer the payments for the next 3 months. Now all this the government does it so that the money supply in the economy increases and the ability for the people to borrow from the economy increases. There is another instrument which we call it as the reverse repo rate. The reverse repo rate is the rate at which RBI borrows from commercial banks. Rather, whenever the commercial banks have extra surplus funds, it is the central bank who encourages them to deposit these funds with them by paying them a rate of interest. Now, this rate of interest is earned by the commercial banks. Now, if suppose the central bank increases the reverse repo rate, it means it is encouraging the commercial banks to deposit more of their money with the RBI by giving them a high rate of interest. With this, the availability of credit with the commercial banks to further give it to the borrowers decreases, क्योंकि उन्होंने अपना पैसा किसके पास रख दिया, RBI के पास. तो commercial banks के पास अब पैसा कम हो गया है borrowers को देने के लिए. इससे क्रेडिट अवेलेबिलिटी कम हो जाएगी और मनी सप्लाई भी कम हो जाएगी. ऐसे ही अगर रिवर्स रेपो रेट कम हो जाता है, इट मींस कमर्शियल बैंक्स आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन डिपॉजिटिंग देयर मनी विद द रिजर्व बैंक एंड कमर्शियल बैंक्स के पास अब ज्यादा पैसा है और उसी पैसे को वो अपने बोरोवर्स को दे सकते हैं एट अ रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. Looking at the next one, open market operations. What do you understand by open market operations? This is different from the earlier three. Open market operations refer to buying and selling of government securities. Now, central bank क्या करता है, जो भी government securities issue हुई पड़ी हैं, central bank उनको या तो खरीद लेगा या तो बेच देगा to the commercial banks and the public. Normally, he does it with the commercial banks. Direct linking with the public is a little less. Now, RBI is authorized, right, to sell and buy these government securities. I'll just name a few government securities, maybe the treasury bills, the bonds. We're going to do them a little more in detail in other subjects also. Now, suppose RBI sells these government securities to the commercial bank. जैसे RBI इन securities को commercial bank को बेचेगा, commercial bank के पास जो पैसा है वो कम हो जाएगा because they have to buy the securities from the RBI. जैसे उनके पास ये पैसा कम हो जाएगा, right, then they will not be in a position to lend more money to the borrowers in the economy. Hence, credit availability and money supply will reduce. But अगर मान लो RBI यही securities commercial bank से खरीदता है, when it buys these securities from the commercial banks, the commercial banks now have more funds. And okay, the next one we're going to understand is legal reserve ratio. When I taught you credit creation or money multiplier, I told you it all depends upon the legal reserve ratio. Higher the legal reserve ratio, the less is the credit creation in the economy by the commercial banks and vice versa. Now, what is this legal reserve ratio? They're also known as the varying reserve ratio. They comprise of two very important ratios. The first one being CRR. It's a very common word, heard it many times. Cash reserve ratio. जैसे हम लोग हर कमर्शियल बैंक में एक मिनिमम बैलेंस हमने रखना होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर HDFC में मेरे को 10,000 रुपये मिनिमम रखना है, सो दैट इज द कैश रिजर्व विच एवरी डिपॉजिटर हैज टू कीप विद द कमर्शियल बैंक. ऐसे ही every commercial bank has to keep a percentage of their net demand and time liabilities with the central bank. In simple English, there is a minimum percentage of cash which is to be kept by the commercial banks with the reserve bank. Now, whenever RBI wants to increase the money supply in the economy, जैसे आजकल का टाइम है, they will reduce the cash reserve ratio. They will tell the commercial banks कि तुम हमारे पास कम net demand and time liabilities कम रखो. The percentage is reduced, maybe from 15% to 12% or maybe 10%. इससे commercial banks के पास ज़्यादा पैसा बच जाएगा, ज़्यादा reserves होंगे, वो उन reserves से they can give more loans to the borrowers in the economy. अगर मान लो and therefore the credit facility or the credit availability increases, then what is statutory liquidity ratio? It is again the minimum percentage of net demand and time deposits which the commercial banks have to keep, but they have to maintain it with themselves. So दोनों में फर्क क्या है? कैश रिजर्व रेशियो वो होता है जो हमने सेंट्रल बैंक के पास रखना है, और स्ट्रेटेजी लिक्विडिटी रेशियो वो होता है जो हमने अपने पास रखना है. ये सारे एक्सेस फंड्स है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ लिक्विड एसेट्स, राइट, जो हमने अपने पास रखना है. नाउ सेंट्रल बैंक एक लिमिट फिक्स कर देती है, एक परसेंटेज फिक्स करती है कि इतना परसेंट तुमने रखना ही है. अगर मान लो सेंट्रल बैंक चाहती है कि क्रेडिट अवेलेबिलिटी बढ़ जाए, तो ऑब्वियसली एसएलआर को क्या करेगी? कम कर देगी. कम करने से कमर्शियल बैंक्स की एबिलिटी टू ग्रांट मोर लोन्स और टू इंक्रीज द क्रेडिट अवेलेबिलिटी विल इंक्रीज, एंड द मनी सप्लाई ऑल्सो विल इंक्रीज इन द margin requirement. Margin requirement is again an instrument which is used by the RBI to increase or decrease the credit availability. Probably this is one ratio, or this is one instrument which even we people are affected by it directly or indirectly. I'll tell you first what is margin requirement. It is a difference between the amount of loan and the market value of securities offered by the borrower against the loan. Simple English में it means जब हम एक बोरोवर है, हमने जाकर कमर्शियल बैंक से लोन लेना है. यू वेरी वेल नो कमर्शियल बैंक विल नॉट गिव मी अ लोन विदाउट अ कोलैटरल. आई हैव गिवन अ कोलैटरल वर्थ 1 crore worth property. Now that 1 crore worth property is the market value of the security. The bank is going to give me a loan of 80 lakhs against that particular property. So what is the margin requirement? 20%. So 20% extra will be the value of the collateral against which the loan is given to me. Now suppose this collateral value decreases, मतलब सरकार ने 20% से 10% कर दी, which means I have given a property of 1 crore, right? I've given a property of 1 crore and I have got a loan of 90 lakhs. Now if I'm getting more loan, what does it mean? People will be encouraged to borrow more. A reduced margin requirement will help people to borrow more. With this, the money supply and the borrowing capacity of the people will increase. But suppose RBI wants to reduce the borrowing capacity, wants to reduce the credit availability, wants to reduce the money supply. RBI क्या करेगा? इस margin requirement को बढ़ा देगा. कैसे? अब 20% से उन्होंने 40% कर दी. इट मीन्स मैं 1 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी दूंगी और मुझे लोन सिर्फ कितना मिलेगा? 60 lakhs. Do you think I'll be encouraged to take a loan? Do you think I'll be able to borrow more? No, right? So whenever margin requirement increases, credit availability decreases. Whenever margin requirement falls, credit availability increases. Coming to the last one, RBI is also a custodian of foreign currency. All of us know foreign exchange reserves जितने भी होते हैं, the government has a stock of it. Where does the government maintain the stock of it? It is kept with the